Hi, I'm here. My name is Hen, and I'm here today to talk about how to distribute, promote, and monetize your release. Um, sorry. I work for a company called CD Baby, which is the biggest independent distributor in the world. We represent about in excess of 9 million tracks, and we've been in operation for over 20 years now. Traditionally, we came from Portland, Oregon, in the US, but over the last 20 years, we've opened up offices all around the world, including an office in Europe in the last 2 years, where I work on the market development side. But in addition to that, we also have offices in places like Brazil, Argentina, India, Mexico, and all around the world. So I'm here. So the first thing I want to talk about is finding a distributor. There's a million different options out there, and I think it's really important that you find the best solution for you as an artist or as a label or a manager. So my first absolute recommendation would be there's an organization called AIM, which is the equivalent of IndieRO in Romania. So they are the trade association that represents independent record labels in the UK. Last year, they published a report along with a news organization called CMU, and it's called the AIM Distribution Revolution Report. Just search for that on Google and you'll find it. And they go through every single distribution option out there and kind of outline the positives and the negatives. And I've got a couple bullet points here on each of them, just to kind of roughly talk you through some of the important considerations when it comes to picking a distributor. So number one is just, take a step back and have a little bit of a think and try to work out what's important for you. Is it fee structures, percentages, and advances? So this is where distributors vary greatly. Some distributors, they charge you an upfront fee, and you get to keep 100% of your royalties, but you won't really have any other form of interaction with them other than just simply uploading your music and making it available everywhere. And then you have kind of that sliding scale all the way up to a distribution partner or a label services partner that will charge you as much as 30% to distribute your music, but they will also give you a much more kind of boutique and hands-on service. So again, it depends. How much do you want to be in control of your own releases? How much support do you need? The next thing is payments. How often do they pay you? And how much transparency is there in the accounting that they make available to you? Are you able to see on every kind of micro level where the transactions come from, which streaming services? Take us as an example. CD Baby, we pay weekly, and we have done for the last 20 something years, because we recognize that independent artists, DIY artists, there's a cash flow issue, especially maybe now during this whole COVID issue. The next thing is data. And I know that this is something that everybody talks about now, data. But it is really important, and it can provide you with information that makes your business decisions as an artist or a label or manager easier. And also, how do they present that data to you? Do they just give you massive spreadsheets with lots of numbers that's super confusing, or are you able to kind of see the data in a very understandable way? Are there graphs available to you? You can ask your potential distribution partner to send you a screenshot, for instance, of what their back-end system looks like. Relationships with DSPs and reach. This is a very important one. Each of the big streaming services will have a list on their website of preferred distribution partners. Have a look. The services that are listed there are there for a reason. It's because we work closer together on a technical level. It means that you know, the transaction of information is clear. There's few kind of mess ups. We build integrations for each other, and you know, there's an ongoing kind of communication. So I would absolutely recommend that if you're looking for a distribution partner, go to Spotify's website, go to Apple's website, see who's listed on each of them, and see if there's anybody that's listed on more than one. You know, can you get a hold of anybody? Now, this is a big one. And I think especially in the independent sector, because if you are a DIY artist, for instance, and you don't really have any representation, then sometimes you need somebody to lean on to ask questions. You know, what is a good release strategy? How frequently should I be releasing my music? Are there any dates of the year that I shouldn't? All these different things a distribution partner can and should help you with. And then added services. This is one of the big differentiators. Coming back to what I was saying about the sort of fee structure, you know, companies that tend to charge a slightly higher percentage will have more services that they offer. So as an example, we at CD Baby, we charge 9% on the back end. But for that, we provide our artists with free access to digital marketing tools, for instance, where you can set up pre-save campaigns, or you can run competitions and social unlocks, things like that. Another added service could be, you know, YouTube and video monetization. Not everybody does that. And then also a big one that's growing even more so is, do they offer any form of publishing administration support on the publishing side? And release structure and flow. Are they clear and concise with you about when the distribution partner wants you to send music? How long in advance do they need your music to be able to optimize on their end? You know, again, this is all about communication. And by the way, I forgot to mention it at the beginning of this. If you have any questions, please send them through the Facebook Live and we'll answer them for you. So we are in a singles era. And what I mean by that is people don't necessarily have very long attention spans at the moment. It also means that you are in a really lucky position as artists, because you have the ability to keep releasing music and keep engaging with your fans. You know, more historical or more kind of old school ways of like dropping a big body of work means that you have to keep working the marketing message around the same product effectively for a really, really long time. And that can get really difficult, especially if you don't have any new marketing messages to shout about. You know, there's only so many times you can say, come listen to my album, before your fans kind of get a little bit over it, to be perfectly honest. And therefore, you're probably seeing a lot of your favorite artists, and you're seeing a lot of up and coming artists releasing single by single, because then you have something new to say. You have a new story every single time you release, and then obviously you can keep that going for weeks around the release cycle, which is, you know, keeping momentum up. If you release an album now, you're probably not going to have another album for, say, another year. People might have forgotten you by then. So keeping the momentum up and building and knowing when is the right time to do different things is really, really important. Which again is why it's really important for you to have industry partners that believe in you, that you can talk to, and that you can get proper feedback from, I think. Engagement over vanity metrics. I think this is a big one. You know, a lot of people, we're going to come back to playlists as a separate slide, but a lot of people just dying to get on playlists, because obviously that drives numbers. But if the people that are listening to you on these specific playlists don't go into your artist profile, save your tracks, listen to any more, then it's, you know, it can become a little bit difficult for you. And I know that a lot of artists get contacted by these companies that promise to get you on different playlists if you just pay them a fee, and this is something you absolutely 100% should not do. this is one of those vanity metrics, you know, it's where it's people love to get a boost in the numbers, but in reality what you're doing there is that you're diluting your data. And by that I mean, how do you know when you look on your Spotify for Artists backend, for instance, how do you know which streams are legitimate and which ones are effectively fake or bought? So then, you know, when it comes to the next step of your campaign, if you want to, you know, market, how do you know which statistics to go by? So you're actually just making it a lot more expensive and a lot more difficult for yourself. I think patience is definitely key here. It's also important that you drive algorithmic streaming activity. And again, I'm going to come back to kind of how you engage with the varying streaming platforms, but make sure that you're hitting, make sure that you're doing what you've been told to do by the DSP so that you end up in those release radar type playlists. This is another big one, releasing on all platforms. There's a big focus around the, you know, around the world. There's little pockets where each service, or where there's services that are bigger than others. Spotify is a really big one, for instance, in Western Europe, but actually Apple is bigger in the US. Angami is massive in the Middle East. So making sure that you know, making sure that your music is available everywhere is really key, because don't assume that you know where your fans are. So somebody might discover you in a country or a region of the world that you did not think was possible at all. But actually, you don't want to prohibit them the chance of that potentially happening. And yeah, so kind of the same thing applies with things like smart links. So a link file, for instance, on your release day. These are brilliant because they list all the different services on one page, effectively, you know, when you have them listed below each other, so that you can, when you have a new release out, you put this on your socials, and then you allow for the fans to click on the service that's relevant to them. This is a big one, which I guess that most people will know already. But somehow, if you have managed to avoid social media up until 2020, this is the time to embrace it if you're an artist. And I often have conversations with artists or managers where they come to me and they say, I just don't like Twitter, I don't like Facebook or Instagram, it doesn't work for me, I can't be funny, I can't be engaging on these various different platforms. And I think quality over quantity is definitely the one here. One person cannot do everything, and if you genuinely at this phase of your career can only manage, say, one or two social media platforms properly, then do that instead of trying to spread yourself too thinly, and also with content that doesn't really actually work. So this is a show.co is a CD Baby specific one, but there's equivalent platforms for other companies or ones that you can find online. So show.co is our digital marketing tool that we give access to CD Baby artists for free. So I mentioned this before, where within this we allow for our artists to set up, for instance, a Spotify pre-save campaign, which I'm going to show you an example of a good one on the next slide. But effectively what that is, it's a one-page landing page where an artist can click or enter their email address in return for, you know, if you want to give them a little something. I'll show you an example in a sec. But sorry. But it also saves the track into the fans library ahead of time, so that on release day it will appear in your fans release radar, which again drives these algorithmic streams that the DSPs really love to see, because that shows that you kind of have a lot of organic growth and that you're pushing on this front on your own. But also this specific tool And other tools like it will allow for you to grow your email list or run competitions, or whatever it is that you can think of to be creative, to kind of engage with your fans and get you want to have a form of transaction, right? You can't always be asking your fans to just give up their data and give up their information. You need to give them something in return. And I see a lot of clever ones on show.co. And one of my favorite ones is an artist that we work with called the Magic Lantern, who will record acoustic versions of the track that's coming out, so that when you pre-save, the link will auto direct you to a secret YouTube link where he's performing this track acoustically. And that's just such a personal experience that you can't, it's difficult to kind of replicate that in a way, but again, it's about making your fans feel special and making them feel like they're engaging with you, not just you throwing things at them constantly. So this is an example of one of our CD Baby artists recently, well, not recently, but in 2020. So as you can see, she's asked her fans to perform one of two actions: either pre-save and follow on Spotify, or enter the email address. And in return, she's giving 25% off merch, automatic competition entry into Get Monster Fled. And again, driving these follower numbers on a platform like Spotify is incredibly important, because that also means when you've got new music out, Spotify will push that to the followers of your artist page. Get Spotify for artists and get verified. So Spotify have built this incredible tool that they give access to artists. Chat to your distributor and get the information that you need to gain access to this, and that will allow for you to go into your Spotify page, artist page, effectively, add pictures, update your bio, and also get access to all this kind of back end information. But I think the profile and the bio side of things, both are really, really important, because so often I will click into an artist profile and it will talk about, in 2015 we are going to blah blah blah, and that, it makes me feel like if you don't have the care and attention to kind of continuously update this, then I'm not going to get to know you as an artist. This is an opportunity for you to show me who you are and let me into another side of who you are as an artist, not just by listening to your music, but seeing your pictures. And they don't all have to be super professional, high tech, high quality images. I mean, they ideally they should be high quality, but it's about personality and keeping information up to date, so that if you, pre-COVID world, but if you were doing a massive European summer tour, for instance, you could have put that there so that intrigue fans to kind of look this up and engage with you even more. Some other cool things that you can do within the Spotify for Artists backend is that you can utilize an artist pick. So sometimes when you log into Spotify, you'll see that an artist has a release featured at the top of their page. It could be their own release, or it could be somebody else's release. But again, it's another factor to introduce you to who that is as an artist, and also drive engagement. If you are part of an underground scene, for instance, this is a really good way where you guys can be supporting each other, because that act over there has a release coming out in 1 month, but that one over there has one coming out in 2 months. So let's all band together and help that artist now, and then we all push for that artist in 2 months' time, and that can help build a community. You can also set up artist playlists, and again, it's the same thing. It's engaging with your fans and giving a bit more background. I see a lot of artists that set up playlists and update it when they're in the studio, for instance. or what inspired them, or what do their parents listen to? Anything. Creativity is your own limitation here. And then probably one of the key features of Spotify for Artists is that you're allowed to submit for playlist consideration. So you have to do this at least 1 week out. But the amazing thing with the playlist pitch form is that if you fill this in a week beforehand, at least, then your track will automatically, or your release will automatically populate within the release radars and discover weeklies of your fans. And if you're lucky, if the editorial team like your release, then there's a chance that they're going to put it in some of their bigger editorial playlists. Same thing with Apple Music for artists accounts. Go to that website listed up top there. It has slightly less functionalities right now than Spotify allows, but it's the same thing. It allows you to update profile pictures and bios, etc., to keep things up to date and vibrant, etc. And both, like all of these services, they offer you amazing back-end information, because again, Apple's bigger in some countries than Spotify is, and vice versa. Therefore, the data that you see in the back end is probably not going to be the same. You're going to see spikes in countries or times of day or different tracks than you have on some other services. The user bases across these different platforms are different as well. Some might be old, like a generally older group of people, or people that subscribe to these services. And some services have younger fans, so their preferences, they're going to vary. But this is an amazing opportunity for you to get to know your fans around the world. So we talked about this briefly before in terms of playlist consideration. But as Spotify has launched now in a bunch of different countries around Eastern Europe and more in Asia, this is going to become increasingly more of a focus point, I think. One of the key pieces of advice that I would give to artists here is, I often see playlist pitches written like song reviews, which is great. I mean, you obviously want to paint a bit of a picture about what the track is, and you want to grab the attention of the editors straight away, obviously. But you also have to remember that these guys, they receive thousands and thousands of pitches every single week. So not only do you want to paint a picture of the song, you also want to give some information about what other stuff is happening in your career. Are you having press support, TV, radio, again, pre-COVID world, touring? What have you got going on other than just releasing music? Because it all needs to fit together in this one happy package. A lot of artist managers and labels tend to think of like playlist as the only facet to a marketing campaign, and it's one piece out of many. Press, contacts, radio, and website. I know it might sound obvious, but have a website, even if it's super simple. Have one. It just makes it look like the music project is slightly more professional. Doesn't have to contain much, doesn't have to be very complicated or expensive or anything like that. Just have one. Make sure that you're capturing people's email addresses, because people engage with emails in a very different way than they do other forms of communication. When people are scrolling through social media channels, you tend to just be kind of really quickly, you dedicate much less time to each post that you see, whereas emails, people spend more time with the individual emails. It's easy to grab people's attention and to keep it there. So it might sound old school, but don't underestimate the power of emails. Make sure that you have a press release or a one sheet. Again, it doesn't have to be super complicated, but it just makes it super, super easy for you to get in contact with people and just send them this one-page document that has, you know, integrated links to your social media, to the various streaming platforms, short bio, you know, maybe some key results, just literally one page of information and a good quality press shot on that, and just send that out to people. And a lot of people, when they're first starting out, they don't necessarily have lists of blogs or radio stations or any of these other ones that you want to get in contact with. But you know, 2020, we are super fortunate in that all this information is available online. You know, in the UK, for instance, we have this thing called the Unsigned Guide, where you pay a small subscription fee and you get access to all these different, you know, promoters, venues, radio stations, blogs. Just shoot people an email, but just make sure that it looks professional, and don't bombard them with an email that's like super long. You want to get to the point, and you want it to be engaging. And as it says there, whether you do it yourself or pay for a PR campaign, publicity doesn't come to you. Go for it. You know, even these campaigns that seemingly look like everything just fell into everything just fell into place overnight, that's not actually how it works. You know, that there's people behind there pushing on all fronts. Notify your local radio station before you have a release coming out. Even if you think they're not interested, just try. The worst thing they're going to say is no. And same thing with third-party playlists. So that's one thing that I feel like we don't talk about enough. And these are playlists curated by other individuals, or by individuals or organizations, and not necessarily by the streaming services themselves. A lot of these playlists are incredible, and they have really low skip rates. And often your music will be put into a playlist where it actually fits. Whereas, you know, some of the big editorial playlists, they have so many different genres in there that it makes for kind of a little bit difficult listening sometimes as a consumer. Whereas, you know, if you go to a third-party playlist that's all acoustic coffee music or whatever it might be, then there's a cohesiveness throughout. So don't underestimate. Music Ally wrote a really good piece on third-party play listing recently that I recommend that people check out. Kind of following on from, definitely following on from what we talked about before, third-party playlists and curators. You know, if you can't find contact details, go on socials. A lot of people will be on Twitter or Instagram. You can message them directly with, you know, a secret SoundCloud link to your release and just say, hey, check out my music. I think this will work because of blah, blah, blah. But if there's one thing that I've learned from working with press, etc., is they can smell a mass email from a mile away. You know, dear sir, they're not even going to continue reading your email because that means that or your message on social media, because that means that you haven't done your research. You haven't made sure that you know who they are and what they do. And that's really important to them. They want to be acknowledged as professionals as well, you know, not just a numbers game. So if you contact somebody, make sure that you can write an email like, hey, Anna, I listened to your radio show last week where you interviewed that artist. It was great, by the way. And then you can, you know, give a brief introduction about your music, but just make it personal. It's so much more effective. And yeah, there's a whole world of music lovers who still personally decide what they want to share with their audience. Utilize it, find them. Social media is your best friend for all of this. And also just go, like on Spotify, just search for keywords that you think fit with your music, you know, folk, blah, blah, blah. And you'll find a bunch of playlists on that has folk music in it, for instance, or rock or metal, whatever it might be. And then you'll see who the curator is, or you see who the brand is, or the account where it comes from, you know, and you'll see how many followers they have. Use that information. Video. this is this is kind of difficult right now, but video is a really good way of of making sure that people get to know you as an artist in more ways than just audio. You know, audiovisual is an incredibly powerful tool. Instagram is a platform that's kind of built itself around having audiovisual tools or audiovisual content. A music video doesn't have to be a super expensive thing. I've seen great music videos shot on mobile phone cameras, but it's just about using some creativity. There's a lot of black and white guitar band up against the brick wall music videos out there. Maybe try something different, you know? Again, creativity is your only limit here. And make sure that your YouTube channel is well organized. You know, you can put things into playlists on your own personal YouTube accounts, and make sure that you can claim it, or make sure that you have access to it, so you can claim your official channel. You know, on YouTube, you can share a lot of different content, not just music videos, but behind the scenes stuff. You know, what are you doing in the studio? Even if it's just a 3-minute, really funny video of, I don't know, drinking beer in the studio or traveling around the country, whatever it might be. The making of something, or where you sit down and you talk to your fans about what was the inspiration for a specific song, or how did you write the guitar riff for something, or, you know, again, creativity. And also this allows for you to, like, coming back to the thing we were saying about social media before, and about, you know, living in a attention economy where people need to be fed stuff frequently to keep their interest up. This is a great way of doing that. Coming on to a bit of the monetization bit. I mean, video is definitely part of that, but also publishing. Publishing can be a little bit daunting to a lot of artists, maybe especially kind of on the indie DIY side of things. But please don't be scared. You know, you need to make sure that you understand which rights are attached to your release. And you need to understand how these revenues flow, who gets what percentage do you get, where are different companies taking a little bit of a cut, you know? Transparency. But you should be able to talk to your industry partners about this. Make sure that you're registered with your local PRO. This is a really important one. Because again, if you're not, then you're not going to get access to some of these monies effectively. Traditional publishing deals can sometimes be really hard to come by, because they're long-term, they're big investment and big commitments. So in the past, that's kind of been reserved for, I guess, music writers that produce a lot of stuff. But there's companies that have kind of revolutionized this space now, called publishing administration companies. So Song Trust, which is one of our sister companies, is a perfect example of that. They're also part of Downtown Music Music Holdings, and they will administer your publishing rights, which means they will register them, they will collect the income, and they will send you your cut of that. But they won't be like super hands-on, like more of a traditional publishing solution, where, you know, the publishers will sit down with the writers and kind of work on stuff for a really longer term. But publishing administration can be a really good alternative, just to make sure that you don't leave money on the table. And just, we've had a couple of questions from the audience. Video should be, the question was whether video should be in landscape or portrait format. I think both. Like, if you can edit and make sure that it's optimized for each platform. But if you're only going to do one of them, make sure that it's the platform where you engage with your fans more, and where you get more kind of feedback from your fans. You know, if it's just for Instagram, then portrait makes more sense. But if you're going to use the same content across different platforms, then see if you can optimize it for each one. Question number 2, tips and tricks for getting a publishing deal. I guess it's the same thing as for a record deal, right? You need to prove, you need to keep writing, you need to show that you have enough content or have enough skill that a publisher will want to invest in you effectively. But often, most frequently with a publishing deal, it comes with an advance. So that means if the publisher needs to believe that you're able to recoup that advance in a reasonable amount of time. But this is also why a publishing administration deal can be fantastic, because the publishing administration companies, they don't stop people from joining. So Song Trust, for instance, you just have to sign up. There's no barrier to jump over to having your works registered and collected on. So yeah, I would absolutely recommend that you go for a publishing administration deal if you don't have another publishing solution in place. Yeah, last point there, make sure that you don't leave money on the table, because that's what it is. We normally try to explain it to artists that we work with, that for every dollar or every euro, every pound that you make on Spotify or somewhere else, it's about 20% extra when you've got your publishing administration in place. Sync licensing opportunities. So this is another one. We have a sync licensing team at CD Baby, who do an absolutely fantastic job, and it's really exciting because a lot of music supervisors know that we represent such a big catalogue. As I said before, we represent over 750,000 artists and 9 million tracks in our catalogue. So if a music supervisor comes to us and says, we want something that sounds like Cowboys from the future, but in the 60s with the touch of R&B, our sync licensing team goes, yeah, we've got the right thing for you. So look into what kind of sync opportunities are around you. Like, we as a distributor, we offer it on a non-exclusive basis, so you just opt in. But that also means that when you if you find another sync company that wants to work with you, it's on a non-exclusive basis through us. So our artists and labels are free to go and find opportunities everywhere else as well. So we've had some really amazing recent sync placements. Stranger Things, in the What We Did in the Shadows, which is a BBC America production, Volkswagen ad. And a lot of these opportunities actually come to artists that have less than like 1,000 followers on Spotify, but just because we were able to really dig into our catalogue and find the correct stuff for the supervisors. Release day is day one. It's a very common mistake that we see, that as soon as the track is out, or as soon as the album or EP is out, people just go, lean back, done. This is definitely not how it should be. You know, a lot of playlist placements don't actually come on release day. I've been working with a rock band here in the UK who released their debut album a couple months ago. The other day, they received some really good playlist placements. These things can take time. Streaming services want to see that you keep pushing and that you keep organically growing. Same thing with press and everything else. Make a plan and make sure that you think ahead, that you don't just kind of drop singles or whatever haphazardly. But if you sit there and you have you have 6 unreleased tracks, have a little think about how frequently you want to release music, to make sure that by the time you get to the end of those 6 tracks, you have more stuff and you've had more time to write. So yeah, think ahead, please think ahead. And also, this is a complete side point, but make sure that all your industry partners have enough time to get excited about what you want to do. I see a lot of managers that will come to me and be like, hey, I want to release a track in 2 weeks. Like, okay, cool. But if you give me a little bit more time, then there's so many more opportunities and so much more advice that we can give you as an industry. So just make sure that you know the preferred lead time for everybody that you're working with, whether that's a PR agent or a distributor or a label or whoever it might be. We have a blog and a podcast that I feel like I should mention. They're really, really good for DIY musicians. Take the opportunity. So and like anything from, the legal side of things to how do you set up and optimize Facebook ads and everything and anything in between. And yeah, last one, keep your chin up. It's tricky. It's really tricky sometimes being especially an independent artist, or a musician, full stop. There's a lot of rejection out there, but a good attitude can go and will go a really long way. A good attitude means people are excited to work with you, and make sure that you have kind of a longer term vision for what you want to do, and keep your chin up. Yeah, if there's any questions, please hit me. But if not, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook on the handles that I've mentioned there. And if you want to talk to me about anything to do with distribution or promotion, or just want some advice, whatever it is, then my email is henrietta@cdbaby.com. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much to Merlin for sponsoring this session, and thank you so much to Karina and Stefan and everybody. You've been absolutely amazing.